On the day of the college entrance exams, my girlfriend Willow Albright's childhood sweetheart, Ethan Summerfield, had left his admission ticket at home. She insisted on going to get it herself. I advised her not to go. As a result, Ethan missed the humanities paper and, in despair, jumped to his death. Later, Willow and I got into Stanford, were earning high six-figure salaries, and had a happy marriage. But on the anniversary of Ethan's death, she stabbed me multiple times, killing me. "You killed him," she had said. If I had helped Ethan get his admission ticket, he wouldn't have despaired and jumped. When I opened my eyes again, I was reborn on the day of the college entrance exams. Willow's anxious voice rang in my ears, sincere. "I have to go back and get Ethan's admission ticket." This time I smiled and told her, "Go ahead, be careful on your way." Half an hour before the exams, I was standing at the school gate waiting to go in. Willow Albright ran over anxiously, drenched in sweat. "Sincere, Ethan's admission ticket is at home. I have to go back and get it for him." I nodded calmly. "Go ahead, be careful," Willow, panting, said. After the science exam, "Wait for me at the school gate. Come with me to buy Ethan a birthday present." I looked her straight in the eye and refused decisively. "No thanks. Willow Albright, let's break up." She looked up, her expression stunned. Then she frowned, annoyed. "Sincere Jones, what's gotten into you?" "I'm just going back to get Ethan's ticket. There's really nothing between us," I nodded, my tone flat. "I know. I just want to break up with you. We're not right for each other." Willow stared at me and scoffed. She turned her head away and snorted, "Fine, break up then. Don't you regret it?" With that, she turned and left, instantly disappearing into the crowd of students. I watched her back, a smile playing on my lips. "Don't worry, Willow. This time the one who regrets it won't be me." In my past life, when Willow wanted to go back and get Ethan's admission ticket, I talked her out of it. "The exam's about to start. What if you don't make it back in time and miss it?" Willow looked very conflicted, but in the end, she listened to me and took the exam on time. Unexpectedly, after the results were out, Ethan's scores plummeted because he missed the humanities paper. In despair, he jumped to his death. Later, Willow and I both got into Stanford. After graduating, with the rise of the internet industry, we smoothly got jobs at big tech companies. Within a few years, we were earning high six figures, fell in love, and got married. I always thought Willow and I, having gone from high school sweethearts to marriage, had a very stable relationship. We were the model couple our friends talked about. Unexpectedly, one stormy summer day after we were married, Willow came back from outside, pulled out a dagger, and stabbed me fiercely in the heart. Again and again, blood gushed out. I clutched my chest, looking at my wife in disbelief. Willow's face was contorted, her eyes full of madness. She said viciously, "It's all your fault for stopping me from getting Ethan's admission ticket. If I had gone, he wouldn't have killed himself for missing the exam. You give me back my love, Ethan?" In my past life, I foolishly believed they were just ordinary childhood friends. It turned out Willow had always loved her childhood sweetheart. My well-intentioned act had become a thorn stuck in Willow's heart for decades. "This life, please, you two, stay together forever." Half an hour later, I was seated in the examination hall on time. After 2.5 hours of intense writing, I finally handed in a satisfactory paper, a culmination of my 3 years of hard work. On the evening the exams ended, my parents took me out for a big celebration dinner. I told my parents, David and Mary Jones, I did very well and getting into Stanford wouldn't be a problem. Mom was thrilled and said excitedly, "Then you and Willow can go to Stanford together and look out for each other." I shook my head and said calmly, "We broke up." My parents were stunned into silence. "What are you worried about?" I chuckled, reassuring them. "Whether we're together or not, Stanford is still there, waiting for me." My parents laughed at that and raised their glasses. Then here's to our son, Sincere, shining brightly at Stanford the next morning. Just as I woke up, I got a call from my friend Gary Miller. Sincere, big news. His voice was unusually excited. "Did you know Willow Albright and Ethan Summerfield missed the exam yesterday?" Apparently, Willow went to get Ethan's admission ticket from his home, and they got stuck in traffic on the way back. In the end, neither of them made it to the exam hall. It's all over the local news. I was silent for a moment, then replied calmly, I know. I was there, of course. What? Gary said, shocked. You didn't try to talk Willow out of it? I heard Mr. Harrison, our class teacher, was furious when he found out. He was counting on you and Willow to get into Stanford or similar top universities to make him proud. Now it's probably just you. Gary was still that 18-year-old kid, but I was no longer the 18-year-old I once was. If it were my past life hearing such news, I would have been worried sick about Willow. But in this life, I no longer wanted to get involved in other people's fates. I replied calmly. I didn't try to persuade her. It was her choice, and she has to bear the consequences. It has nothing to do with me. By the way, I broke up with her then, and she agreed. Gary on the other end of the line was clearly shocked by this news. You two broke up? Yeah, he collected himself. Okay, well, it's a bit sudden, but it makes sense, I guess. Willow has been a bit off. I mean, it's the college entrance exams, and she missed them for Ethan Summerfield. I always felt something was weird. Couldn't quite put my finger on it. I couldn't help but mock myself inwardly. No wonder he found it strange. All I can say is Willow was too good at hiding her true self. Even in my past life, as her husband, I failed to see the true feelings she'd hidden in her heart all along. But it didn't matter anymore. From now on, I would only care about my own growth. As for Willow, I was curious to see if things would go smoothly for her this life. At the class reunion, Willow Albright walked into the private room with Ethan Summerfield's arm around her. The two sat on the sofa, acting intimately. Everyone had a ear for the drama look on their faces, glancing between me and them. Someone broke the ice, Willow. I heard you and Ethan are planning to retake the year. Willow nodded. Ethan, beaming, hugged Willow tightly and said happily, On the day of the exams, Willow personally went home to get my admission ticket. Even though we missed the exams, it showed me her true feelings. We're together now. After retaking the year, we'll go to the same university. We've planned it all. We'll get married after graduation, have a boy and a girl, and live happily ever after. Willow listened, looking proud. It's never too late for school, but if you miss out on love, it won't come back. Besides, I'm a good student. I can still get into Stanford next year. Ethan smiled silently and kissed Willow's lips. Screams from many girls instantly filled the room. Amidst the cheers, Gary discreetly glanced at my expression. Sincere, he said cautiously. Don't feel too bad. Willow said she liked you before, and now she's changed her mind so quickly. It's a good thing you broke up with her. I turned and gently patted his shoulder. Don't worry, I reassured him. I'm not upset. Willow and I met after classes were reshuffled in our junior year of high school. We were both placed in the advanced science track. I was ranked first, and she was second. The teacher deliberately made us desk mates so we could support each other academically. Over time, Willow and I grew closer and could talk about anything. During breaks, we'd even discuss problems together, often drawing suggestive catcalls from some of the boys in class. Whenever that happened, Willow's ears would turn red, and she'd apologize to me. I would just lower my head, not daring to look her in the eyes. Until one day after school, she confessed her feelings to me. Back then, she was thin and delicate, fair-skinned, a good student, and definitely top university material. I truly thought I was the male lead in a high school romance novel who had met his destined heroine. No one could have imagined it would all come to an abrupt end on that rainy night 10 years later. Seeing me silent, Gary continued to console me. Willow Albright is just a pretty face. Deep down, she's a two-timing hussy. And Ethan Summerfield is even worse. He's always adopting younger girls as sisters at school and hangs out with a bunch of young hoodlums outside. If it weren't for his family's money, the school would have disciplined him long ago. I don't think either of them is any good. They won't last. I smiled faintly. Don't worry, I really don't care anymore. Seeing them together makes me happy. I truly hope they stay together forever. After the results came out, admissions officers from both Stanford and MIT came to my house. They were vying for me, saying I could choose any major. In my past life, I wanted to choose computer science, but Willow persuaded me to pick civil engineering. As a result, after starting my freshman year, I found I didn't like civil engineering at all. I had to study like crazy for a year, pulling countless all-nighters, and finally managed to transfer to computer science in my sophomore year. This time, without Willow's interference, I directly chose computer science at Stanford. After submitting my university application, Gary called to ask me out for dinner. Coincidentally, just as the food arrived, we ran into Willow Albright and Ethan Summerfield. Ethan, with his arm intimately linked through Willow's, sat down at our table without asking. "What a coincidence, Sincere Jones. You guys out for a meal too? I'm so jealous of you single guys still able to hang out with friends. Not like me, Willow clings to me every day. I can barely get away." Willow listened and smiled sweetly. "It's because you're too good to me that I can't help wanting to be with you every day." "Hey, we have company," Ethan said, then leaned over and kissed Willow. Gary curled his lip in disgust and shot me a look. I glanced over, feeling nothing. After his kiss, Ethan turned to me. "Sincere Jones, you must be lonely going to university all by yourself. Too bad Willow can't go with you. She's retaking the year with me." I smiled but said nothing. But Gary couldn't hold back and said sarcastically, "Yeah, definitely lonely. Sincere applied for computer science at Stanford, you know. Not everyone can get into that program. Speaking of which, if you're both retaking the year, why are you still out eating and having fun? If it were me, I'd be anxious as hell, already hitting the books at a prep school the day after the exams." Ethan's face flushed red. He pointed at Gary, too angry to speak. Willow's face darkened considerably. She frowned at me and said sharply, "Sincere Jones, you applied for computer science? What kind of obscure major is that? Didn't I tell you to apply for civil engineering? Civil engineering is where it's at right now. If you choose the wrong major, even a Stanford graduate won't find a good job." Ethan heard this and immediately got excited. "Willow, is that true?" Willow nodded, affecting a profound tone. "A computer science degree from Stanford is no match for a civil engineering degree from a state college." Sigh, Sincere Jones's future looks bleak. Gary's face instantly reddened, wanting to argue. But unsure if Willow was telling the truth, he looked at me anxiously. I glanced at Willow coolly and said dismissively, "My business, does it have anything to do with you? What are you pretending to be an expert for? No matter how bitter you are, I still got into Stanford. And you? What university did you get into?" Willow was choked by my words and retorted furiously, "What's so hard about Stanford? I just didn't want to go. After I casually retake the year, what university couldn't I get into next year?" Hearing this, Ethan also looked at me arrogantly. "Yeah, what's so great about Stanford?" I nodded and said casually, "Stanford indeed isn't all that great. But let me remind you, don't forget your admission tickets next year, or you'll have to retake the year again." After saying this, I ignored their dark expressions and pulled Gary away. Half a month later, the acceptance letter arrived. My dad, David Jones, usually so stoic, actually shed tears looking at the words Stanford University. My mom, Mary Jones, was even more excited, taking over 10 photos and posting them on her social media feed. Sincere Mom said, "You must study hard when you get to university." I nodded. Actually, I had already bought many books, planning to enrich myself before school started. Learning more now would enable me to seize bigger opportunities in university. A few days later, Gary and I went to a hotel for the graduation banquet. Countless students and teachers gathered, and many parents came too. Mr. Harrison, our class teacher, pulled me by the arm onto the stage and said emotionally, "This is Sincere Jones, a talented student from our experimental high school who will be attending Stanford University. Let's congratulate him." The hall instantly erupted in thunderous applause. After the applause died down, a faint complaint suddenly reached everyone's ears clearly. If only our daughter were still with Sincere Jones, Maybe she would have gotten into Stanford too. The hall fell silent instantly. Everyone looked over, then started whispering. I looked closely and saw it was Willow's mother, Helen Albright. Willow's parents, Thomas and Helen Albright, were both teachers and had always educated Willow well. They probably never imagined their daughter would behave so unconventionally. Ethan Summerfield's mother, Brenda Summerfield, suddenly rushed out, screeching, "What do you mean by that?" One hand on her hip, she pointed her other finger at Helen Albright's nose. Helen Albright was startled and took 2 steps back. Thomas Albright supported his wife and said sternly, "Is my wife wrong? If your son hadn't pressured my daughter to get his admission ticket, why would she have missed the exam?" Brenda Summerfield, fleshy-faced and adorned with clanking jewelry, was clearly a shrew. She screeched, "What do you mean my son forced her? It was clearly your daughter who was eager to please my son. Even if she missed the exams, she deserved it." Ethan's father, Richard Summerfield, also strolled over and sneered at Thomas Albright. I wondered who it was. Just a penniless schoolteacher. "If you apologize now, we might still consider you in laws. If you're going to be so unreasonable, then don't blame us for being harsh." Thomas Albright was an honest man, used to being respected at school. He had never encountered such a scene and was choked speechless for a moment. Trembling, he pulled Willow over. "Willow, tell me, were you forced to get the admission ticket and that's why you missed the exams?" Willow looked impatient and violently shook off her father's hand. "Enough, what are you two fussing about? Ethan is the most innocent boy I've ever met. How could he possibly force me? This was all my choice. Being with Ethan is my dream. What does missing the exams matter?" Willow's parents turned pale with anger, pointing at her with trembling fingers. You ungrateful wretch, we worked so hard to raise you, and this is how you repay us." Willow's expression was icy as she said coolly, "If you're so disappointed in me, we can sever ties. From now on, I'll consider Ethan's parents my own. I'll be filial to them, and that's enough." Brenda Summerfield heard this and burst out laughing. "Did you two penniless teachers hear that? Willow wants to acknowledge us as her parents. You might as well go home and forget about it." Ethan also hugged Willow affectionately. "Mr. and Mrs. Albright, Willow's with me now. She's like my little sister and my girlfriend. When we get married, we'll be family. You two can just stay out of it." Willow kissed him and said to her parents, "That's right, Mr. and Mrs. Albright. We have no relationship anymore. You can go home." Hearing this, Helen Albright's body went limp, and she fainted. The scene instantly descended into chaos. People were calling out for Willow's mom, calling for an ambulance, and others stood by, sighing and shaking their heads. Willow, however, just rolled her eyes, looking completely unconcerned. She turned and left with Ethan's family. In the end, Willow's parents left in an ambulance, and the remaining teachers and students lost their appetite for the banquet. The graduation banquet ended so abruptly. On the way back, Gary was indignant. Willow Albright is a real piece of work, treating her own parents like that. Her mom fainted, and she didn't even spare her a glance. I nodded in agreement. I had experienced Willow's cruelty in my past life. She could kill her husband of 10 years with her own hands for Ethan's sake. In this life, abandoning her own parents wasn't out of the question for her. Gary continued, "Did you see Ethan's family? That crass, thuggish behavior is really disgusting. I heard their family runs a casino, not a legitimate business. No wonder they're so brazen. I wonder if Willow is being so proactive because she's after their money." I was non-committal. "Maybe," I said casually. Gary pursed his lips. "I'm curious to see what happens with those two oddballs together." I smiled, somewhat expectant myself. A month later, as the start of the semester approached, my parents and I were packing at home. Unexpectedly, Willow Albright showed up at our door. She peeked inside and said, "Mrs. Jones, I'm Sincere's classmate. I heard he's flying out of state for university soon, and I wanted to say a few words to him." My mom agreed and called me out. It was just the two of us in the hallway. I spoke first. "What do you want to say to me? Get on with it." Willow frowned, studying my expression. Her staring made me uncomfortable. I reached for the door to go back inside. "If you're not going to say anything, I'm leaving." She quickly reached out to stop me. "Sincere, are you still mad at me?" I looked at her, puzzled. She smiled playfully. "I know you lost a lot of face when I dumped you, but anyone in my shoes would have chosen Ethan. He's handsome, considerate, rich. I'm madly in love with him." I couldn't help but laugh. "Willow Albright, did you just come here to tell me how much you love Ethan Summerfield?" Seeing my indifference, she got a little agitated. "Sincere Jones, stop pretending. I know you can't bear to let me go. At the graduation banquet, you couldn't stop staring at me. If you still like me, you can say so. We can still be friends. Don't worry, Ethan is very understanding. He won't get jealous." Looking at her incredible self-confidence, I was truly speechless. At that banquet, with hundreds of people there, who wasn't looking at her after that scene? I couldn't be bothered to waste words on her. "You're mistaken," I said directly. "I have no interest in being friends with you. Is there anything else you want to say?" Seeing that I wasn't angry, a hint of frustration flickered across her face. "Sincere, don't think you're superior just because you got into Stanford. A degree isn't that important nowadays, especially in an obscure major like computer science that no one's even heard of. Ethan's parents are business people. I can learn a lot from them. We'll go to a local university, inherit his family's business, become our own bosses. We'll definitely do better than you." I patiently listened to her long, conceited speech. Finally, she ran out of words and looked at me expectantly, but I remained expressionless and merely nodded. "Got it. Well, I wish you success then." With that, I shut the door on her. After the semester started, I finally stepped through the gates of Stanford. With the experience from my past life, I had a much clearer plan for university this time. I not only excelled in my coursework, maintaining the top GPA in my major, I also participated in various research projects, built good relationships with influential professors, and networked. These efforts would not only smooth my path in research, but also provide a foundation for my future entrepreneurial ventures. At the end of the semester, I easily secured the top rank in my major and also received a research scholarship, quickly making a name for myself in the department. When I went home for winter break, Gary asked me out and told me some big news. Willow Albright was pregnant. I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow when I heard that. Gary, with an "I bet you didn't see that coming" expression, said excitedly, "You won't believe this, but ever since Willow and Ethan started retaking the year, Ethan's family rented an apartment for them near the school. A young couple, living alone without parental supervision. What did they expect would happen? Later, word got out that her belly was getting bigger by the day, too big for her school uniform to hide. That's when everyone else found out she was pregnant. Surprisingly, she didn't seem to care at all. She even took a leave of absence from school to focus on her pregnancy, planning to continue high school after the baby was born. So, Sincere, pretty shocking, right?" I smiled and nodded. Gary sighed, puzzled. How did Willow suddenly change so much? In high school, I thought she was quite charming, good-looking, and a good student. You two together looked like the main characters from a novel. I never thought Willow would end up acting like such an idiot, getting pregnant out of wedlock like that. I took a sip of my drink. Who knows? You can know a person's face, but not their heart. Some people in this world are just very good at pretending. Before returning to university, I went to the mall to buy clothes and happened to run into a heavily pregnant Willow Albright. I was about to walk away and avoid her, but she saw me and blocked my path, looking smug. She smiled, looked me up and down, and said in a deliberately sweet voice, "Long time no see, old classmate. You still look so dorky. Don't tell me you're still just a hopeless bookworm even in university." I said nothing, just looked at her blankly. She shyly caressed her belly. I don't know how it happened, but I accidentally got pregnant with Ethan's baby. He's always loved me so much and treats me so well. In a few more months after our baby is born, we'll be a happy little family of 3. Ethan said he's willing to stay local for our family so he can easily take care of me and the baby. Don't you think he really loves me? I smiled and answered her earnestly. Indeed, he loves you very much. After all, not many 18-year-olds are having babies. She caught the sarcasm in my tone, and her face fell slightly. Sincere, it's no use being jealous of me. I'm actually glad I dumped you now. What's the use of your fancy degree? You're still just a hopeless bookworm. Women like men who are gentle, considerate, rich, and can give them a sense of home. Can you do that? Besides, she looked me up and down. You have such a terrible physique and dress so frumpy. I really don't know what woman would ever be interested in you. Suddenly, her phone rang. She saw the caller ID and shot me a defiant look. Then she answered the phone, cooing, "Okay, honey, I'm coming back now. Don't miss me too much, moi." She gave me a sidelong glance, supported her belly, and walked off. I couldn't help but find it amusing. 2 18-year-olds raising a child. This was going to be interesting to watch. By my senior year, I had secured a guaranteed spot in the master's program, doing research under a professor I greatly admired. I had a lot of free time, which I used to prepare for my master's thesis and plan my startup. Unexpectedly, when I went home for the holidays, I ran into Willow Albright downstairs in my apartment complex. She seemed to have been waiting there for a long time. The moment she saw me, she looked somewhat pleasantly surprised. She approached me, wringing her hands, and said hesitantly, "Sincere, long time no see. How's life in the city?" I nodded and said coolly, "Not bad." She gave an awkward laugh. "By the way, are you preparing for grad school entrance exams? I hear they're really tough these days, not just anyone can get in." I said lightly, "I got direct admission." She froze for a second, a flash of shock in her eyes. "Direct admission? Right. You go to a good school, they have those spots. But I heard that a master's degree isn't very useful nowadays. With an obscure major like yours, even a master's graduate might not find a job. Ethan's dad knows a lot of influential people. He could easily get me a job that pays tens of thousands of dollars a month. By the way, do you have any connections in the city? I might go to the city in the future, too. After all, one can't always stay in one place to develop." I refused flatly, "No. Is there anything else? I need to go back." She nodded with an embarrassed smile. Okay, see you around." I ignored her and went home. Gary heard I was back and came to hang out. "Willow Albright came looking for you today and asked if you had connections?" I nodded. Gary excitedly told me about Willow's recent situation, and only then did I understand her unusual behavior earlier. It turned out that after having her baby, Ceci, she went back to retake her senior year. But it had taken a toll on her, and she didn't study properly at all. As a result, she failed the college entrance exams and ended up at a local third-tier college. She used to be a top student and was good-looking, so a few guys in her department confessed their feelings to her. Arrogant as ever, she played games with them, not initiating, not rejecting, not taking responsibility, just stringing them along. This led one young guy to pursue her all the way to her home. Unexpectedly, he ran into Ethan. Ethan, with their child, Cece, beat the guy up badly. The guy went back to college and spread the word that Willow was married and had a child. Everyone was outraged and started to ostracize Willow. Willow was still basking in the glory of her past academic achievements and wasn't willing to learn any practical skills. She just dreamed of making big money through Ethan's family business after graduation. Unexpectedly, in recent years, the local authorities launched a crackdown on organized crime. The Summerfield family's illegal businesses were brought under strict control. Now, the Summerfield family's finances had taken a significant hit. I heard Brenda Summerfield even started selling her jewelry. Sincere, don't you think Willow got what she deserved? And I also heard that after Willow disowned them, her parents, Thomas and Helen, quickly had a second child. Now they're a happy family of 3 and couldn't care less about Willow, acting as if they never had her as a daughter. I was a bit surprised. I hadn't expected that. But their choice wasn't wrong. Why continue to raise such an ingrate? After returning to university, I successfully completed my master's studies. 2 years later, I had successfully written 2 research papers, which were published in professional journals under my professor's guidance. A company took an interest in my papers and specially invited me to be a research consultant. The consulting fee for one project was $100,000 a month. I instantly accumulated my first pot of gold. It was summer break, so I went home and attended a class reunion with Gary. After several years, I saw Willow Albright again. What shocked me was how much she had aged in those few years. Her hair was messy, her skin no longer fair. Her face was sallow and had many wrinkles. Anyone who didn't know her might believe she was 40. Even more surprisingly, she seemed to have a limp in one leg and walked with a wobble. When she entered the private room, all eyes fell on her. A classmate said maliciously, well, Miss Valedictorian, how did your leg get crippled?" As he spoke, everyone burst into laughter, as if they all knew what had happened and were deliberately teasing her. Willow looked embarrassed and gave a fawning smile. Work. She then sat in a corner, tucking her leg away. Clearly, no one present intended to let her off the hook. "Miss Valedictorian, didn't you say you could casually ace your way into Stanford? How come you only ended up in a third-tier college? Not planning on grad school?" The guy next to him nudged his arm and teased, "What do you know? What's the use of being good at studies? Our star student has latched onto the Summerfield family. Why would she worry about not having a good life?" Everyone laughed again. Willow's smile froze on her face. She lowered her head, drank her drink, and said no more. Gary nudged me and whispered in my ear, "Do you know how Willow got that limp?" I turned my head. "How?" Gary lowered his voice. "I heard that after graduating from her third-tier college, Willow went to work at the Summerfield's casino. Then the crackdown on organized crime happened, and business became difficult. Willow wasn't making much money, and was also strictly controlled by Ethan. In a fit of anger, she hooked up with a rich man, but Ethan found out. Willow tried to run off, but as she was crossing the road, she was hit by a car, and that's how her leg got crippled." I sneered. "So Willow is still with Ethan Summerfield now?" Gary pursed his lips. "You don't get it, do you? What does Willow have now? A poor education, no skills, a crippled leg, and even her parents have abandoned her. Sticking with the Summerfield family, she can at least get by. If she were on her own, she'd probably be homeless. So, she's shamelessly begging and clinging to him, refusing to leave, even using their child, Cece, as leverage. I heard it's still an ongoing mess." I said no more. After the party broke up, Willow stopped me at the KTV entrance. "Sincere, can I talk to you for a moment?" Gary looked at me worriedly. I nodded to him and followed Willow to the side. Willow stood with difficulty, looking at me with a complicated expression. "Sincere, you're different from how you were in high school." I raised an eyebrow. "How so?" She lowered her head, looking slightly shy. "You've become more handsome, more charismatic than before. As expected of someone from the big city. The guys in this small town just can't compare to you. You have no idea, I'm going crazy at home every day. Ethan is like a madman now. All he does is drink and hit me at the slightest provocation." I sneered. "Is that so? I seem to recall you saying Ethan was gentle and considerate, and you were madly in love with him." Willow instantly became agitated and said hurriedly, "Sincere, I was young and foolish before. I chose the wrong person. I know I was wrong now. Can you give me another chance? Actually, I've never forgotten you." Hearing her words, I couldn't help but laugh. "Willow Albright, where do you get the confidence to think that after all these years I would still like you?" She fell silent, turning her face away to wipe a tear. "Sincere, if only I hadn't gone to give Ethan that admission ticket back then. Then we would have gone to Stanford together. We'd surely have built a successful career by now and be living such a happy life." I, too, fell silent. A cold breeze blew, making me shiver involuntarily. "Willow, if you hadn't gone to give Ethan that admission ticket, the one regretting it now would be me. All of this, you brought it upon yourself." After returning to the city, I successfully graduated with my master's degree and joined a small tech company. My professors and classmates didn't understand. Only I knew that this company would rise rapidly in 2 years. Joining now meant I could get stock options. When the company went public, I would achieve financial freedom directly. Low risk, high reward. If I hadn't been reborn, such a good opportunity wouldn't have come my way. The company was in its growth phase, so there was a lot of work. I was incredibly busy every day. When I received Gary's call, I realized a year had passed without me noticing. Gary could barely contain his excitement on the phone. "Sincere, I have some huge gossip for you. The Summerfield family has gone bankrupt after so long." I heard that familiar name again. Gary continued, "It happened just a while ago. All of the Summerfield family's illegal businesses were shut down. Ethan's parents, Richard and Brenda, were arrested by the police. I heard they're facing long prison sentences. Now Ethan and Willow are unemployed. They're running a small food stall with their daughter Sassy right outside our old high school. I heard they argue every day and sometimes even get physical. After listening, I just acknowledged it, feeling no particular emotion." Gary asked curiously, "Sincere, don't you think Willow got what she deserved? If she hadn't given Ethan that admission ticket back then, she might have graduated from Stanford by now, earning a fortune. I wonder if she ever thinks about what happened and regrets it." I smiled and replied, "Who knows?" 2 years later, the tech company I worked for successfully went public. I had achieved complete financial freedom. A friend introduced me to a junior from university. She was a mixed-race girl named Anna Chevalier. We got along very well. For the new year, I brought her back to my hometown. When Gary heard, he insisted on us going for a walk, saying he absolutely had to meet this much-anticipated mixed-race beauty he'd heard about. So I had no choice but to go out with Anna. We walked and talked, and before we knew it, we had reached our old high school. It was almost New Year, so there weren't many people outside the school. Suddenly, the sound of arguing reached our ears. "There's no one at school now. Why are we still setting up the stall if we don't set up the stall? What else can we do? We need to earn something, or Sissy's school fees for next semester will be due again. Damn it, why did I ever fall for a jinx like you? You think I don't regret it? If you hadn't insisted I get your damn admission ticket back then, I'd have gotten into Stanford. You ruined my life." As they spoke, the two people by the food cart started fighting. Screams immediately followed. Before Gary and I could react, Anna rushed over. She pulled them apart and said in accented English, "Talk things out properly. You can't hit a woman." Willow opened her mouth to curse, but then she looked up, saw Gary and me, and froze. "Sincere?" Ethan saw us, jumped out from behind Anna, lunged at Willow and slapped her hard. "You hussy, what are you looking at? No wonder you're always so bitchy to me. Are you still thinking about this old flame of yours, huh?" Willow flared up too and started grappling with Ethan. "It's all your fault, you dimwit. You ruined my life. If it weren't for you, I would have gone to Stanford with Sincere. You give me back my bright future." I waved Anna back to us. The three of us quickly left. After walking some distance, Anna, still shaken, said, "So crude, so awful." Gary was doubled over with laughter. He said to me, "Sincere, your little girlfriend is really cute, ha ha ha." I smiled. After parting ways with Gary, Anna and I went home. Downstairs, she took my hand. The afternoon sun was just right. "Sincere," she said, "after the new year, come home with me to meet my parents." I looked into her loving eyes and nodded gently. "Okay."